Good evening, everyone. Like to welcome you once again to another episode of Hebrew News Network. And my name is Brother Nate. Today, I'll be hosting the show alone. My son is taking care of Nate the Fourth. So we're going to get right into it. As you can see from the topic this evening, are we headed towards nuclear war? And sad to say, this is definitely something that we have to discuss because I know dealing with church and preaching the gospel from myself to the elders that came before me, um, even up until now, we kind of know that the Lord wouldn't let it reach nuclear war as far as all out nuclear war is concerned, due to Matthew 24 letting us know that um, if nuclear war broke out completely, there should no flesh be saved. So we'll look at that today. First and foremost, we'll be visiting Fox Business. Iran tensions explode, and we'll be checking out a video pertaining to China and Russia. Also, and just a small segment, and then we'll be moving over to another article pertaining to Russia as well. CNN 18 on that particular channel. Trump being under pressure as Russia reportedly sends military supplies to Iran. And also in that particular video, it talks about Russia's loyalty. And what most people don't understand about Russia's loyalty is that Russia and Iran, they have been in bed with each other for thousands of years. Looking all the way back to the book of Daniel, chapter 7, you'll see how Daniel has a vision of this Gentile dynasty coming into play. And the beginning of the Gentile dynasty is what started off the Babylon as far as the Gentiles are concerned. After Babylon and Nebuchadnezzar lost power, the Medo-Persian Empire came up next. That Medo-Persian Empire is described as the bear. In addition to that Medo-Persian Empire being the bear, we're talking about two countries that have been in bed with each other thousands of years once again, and that's Russia and Iran, or the Bible calls it the Medo-Persian Empire. We also take a look at the Hal Turner website. Former Congressman, United States, former Congresswoman states that the United States is discussing using nuclear weapons upon Iran. So definitely something we have to pay attention to because, once we start moving to those type of weapons right there, it's a possibility that all flesh could be wiped out. So we'll just take a brief look at that. Give me 1 second here. Give me 1 second. Let's see here. And good evening to everybody. Glad you guys able to make it in. Next, we'll be going to a page, Mario Nawfield, where he also kind of breaks down, has a guy come on, the Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar. They're discussing nuclear weapons on Iran. So this is kind of backing up Marjorie Taylor Greene on the Hal Turner page. More and more conversations are rising pertaining to nuclear war. We'll also be looking at the false preacher of the week. We had pointed out this individual a month or so ago. Brian Carn from Jacksonville, Florida, is a well-known false preacher. To some people, he's a real preacher, but we know that he is full of it. He made a declaration that he would not be going to prison. He won't spend a day in jail. However, he got locked up this week. So that's why you don't want to put your faith in man. Stick to the word of God. The Lord even tells us about that, these false prophets. And one last but not least article, back to Fox News, neonatologist sounds alarm over Massachusetts abortion law allowing procedure up to birth. Let's see here. And I forgot something. Oh, before we do that, before we get to the false prophet of the week, we'll come back to what I just stated. Just give me 1 second. We'll also be checking out Fox News. Just an article on it, or I think it's a video on the daylight saving time. Are you for or against it? Are you against or are you for daylight saving time? Now, one of the big arguments about daylight savings time is that it'll be dark in the morning time while people at the bus stop and things of that sort. the mornings will be a lot darker a lot later than they are now. So are you for them making it permanent daylight saving time, or would you like to continue going back and forth? But like the Bible says in Daniel 7, man, I think to change times and laws. If you leave it alone, the Lord has things set up so it'll function how he wants it to function. But back down to our last article of the day, I thought this is very important because the Lord has set it up for us to be fruitful and multiply. And it's bad enough that when you take a life of a child inside of the womb, as far as abortion is concerned, that's bad in and of itself, right? But to allow a woman to have a child, the child to be born, and then you turn around and kill it, just go to show where the world is right now, So we'll take a look at that as well. How y'all feel about that? I mean, I'm against abortion completely, but I just wanted to point out, just where we are in the world right now. The world is completely going sideways. So much so that it's blatant to the point where you don't mind taking a child's life after the mother delivers it. But that's why the writing's on the wall. All right, so looking at this article here, Iran tensions explode. Trump draws red line. Russia gets involved. And I just wanted to point out this 1 minute segment here. What's up, Cam, Sister Chris? Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys are having a great week as well. All right, so let's see here, and we'll look at this, and then we're gonna check out something else in regards to this as well.
There are other options on the table. Well, I have you, Victoria. Last question. Ukraine launching 800 drones towards Moscow this week, one of the largest drone attacks since the conflict began over 4 years ago. Russia striking back on a Ukrainian village, reportedly killing at least 10, wounding 17 others. What would it take for this conflict to finally come to an end?
Well, I think it's going to take more progress like Ukraine has been making. And, what's been reported about the Russian shipments to Iran real quickly, I mean, that's fairly minor stuff that they're sending. Neither Iran nor China have gotten heavily involved, or Russia or China have gotten heavily involved in the Iran war. And I think that's telling. I think Russia's really stretched. I think if Ukraine can continue this pressure on Moscow with these drone attacks, particularly on their energy infrastructure, we might see Putin start to move as the fall goes on and possibly come back to the table and make a deal.
Okay, so that's all I wanted to show right there. Now, if you have any understanding on the word of God, first and foremost, Russia ain't stretched at all. The reason why Russia and China are not getting heavily involved as of now is because of what the Lord said in the Bible, and that is pertaining to let's see here, let me get it right quick. It just seems to me that we watching these talking heads sit up here and lie. Like, nowadays we have social media, so it's not, you can't just tell us anything, but they just make it seem like all these other countries are hurting so bad, like Iran is doing so bad, yet and still, nothing has changed as far as this all out war front is taking place. It's actually gotten worse than I am. But this is why Russia, Iran, and China have not gone full-fledged war on us. Revelation chapter 7, and it says, after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel descending from the east, having the seal of the living God, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of God in their foreheads. So I just kind of wanted to point this out, because nothing can happen as far as Russia is concerned. Them doing anything, it's not gonna happen right now. And it's not that they're weak and none of that, but it's like they're trying to sell us a dream, sell us a pipe dream, and make it seem like Russia and Iran and China, they're so weak, they can't. Iran can't handle the bombardment of what America is doing to them, while at the same time, we got soldiers out in the middle of nowhere, ships breaking down. Soldiers are trying to take their lives and jump off the ships. You know what I'm saying? Electricity went out on the ship. uh, besides what we're hearing the complaints about this week, as far as sellers and stuff like that, morale is down. Another ship, the power went out for 4 days. You know, they weren't able to take no showers, weren't able to have any heat on the ship or none of that. So we talking about the infrastructure as far as our capabilities are concerned breaking down, and we trying to fight against these major countries. It's not gonna work. So her making this statement, let's see it one more time. That's why I say they selling us a pipe dream.
Russia or China have gotten heavily involved in the Iran war, and I think that's telling. I think Russia's really stretched. I think if Ukraine can continue this pressure.
See, Russia's not stretched. As a matter of fact, Ukraine was a part of Russia at one point in time, and it's just a matter of time before Russia take it back. So that's the Lord's army. They're not stressed at all. The Lord just got everything been held back for the time being. And another place I want to look at, Revelation 16. And we're going to look at verse, let's see here. Let's see here. Okay, in verse 12, it says, and the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water there was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. So the kings of the east, in relation to where Jerusalem is, the kings of the east, that would be your Russia, your China, your Iran, and their allies, right? So if you pay attention to what it's saying in Revelation 16 and 12 here, they're not struggling. You know, Russia ain't going through it. What they're mainly doing is they can't do nothing until the Lord sign off, which is why it says, and the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates. And it's not now. You know, right now we're in the what we would call the wars and rumors of wars that are going on right now. And it's just picking up, and it's going to keep on getting worse. Like I wanted to do a segment on all the earthquakes that have been happening lately, you know, but everything is kind of coinciding together. And while I have it on my mind, it was another individual found hung last week. I think we talked about that. And right after that, a young brother hung himself. They say he hung himself in Charlotte, North Carolina, downtown. So whatever's going on, y'all just stay in prayer and just stay vigilant. You know, at the end of the day, the Lord is the one that controls everything. But back to what I was talking about, Russia ain't hurting at all, y'all. But let's see here. Let's see here. Bring another article up. Because this is still in the same conversation as far as what's going on with Russia. So let's pay this some attention right here. And this, like it says, the United States-Iran war. CNN News 18, that's the channel. Trump under pressure as Russia reportedly sends military supplies to Iran. So just showing you that, look, everybody coming together, everybody working together. All the players are getting situated. I saw something today that if I can, I may address it next week because I need to do a little bit more digging into it. But even Trump said that he's getting ready to remove America from NATO. So you know what that means, right? And he's saying that because, you know, everybody didn't go to war and help him fight against Iran. I mean, it was a dumb decision to do that anyway, you know, especially going off of emotions coming from out of Israel. However, he is also making statements that he has plans for us to come on, get out of NATO, America, that is. So what that's going to do is that's going to force the United Nations or NATO or European Union to go ahead and form their military. And they got to form their military, and you got Russia, Iran, China, all these allies coming together as well. So we just seeing the Bible unfold. All right, so let's just check this out right quick. This is about four minutes.
Russia is quietly rebuilding Iran's war machine. More than 25 Russian ships have reportedly carried explosives, drone parts, and ammunition to Iran through a supply route the U.S. cannot easily block. According to a European government document obtained by NBC News, Russia has been sending military supplies to Iran through the Caspian Sea. The reported shipments include TNT, ammunition, and drone components. Satellite imagery also suggests some cargo may contain components used in ballistic missile production. More than 24 Russian ships have reportedly made the journey to Iran's Amirabad port. For years, Tehran supplied Moscow with Shahed-type drones used against Ukraine. Now, the flow of military supplies appears to be moving in the opposite direction, with Moscow helping Iran rebuild what it lost in its war with the US and Israel. The most interesting part is how the ammunition is reaching to Iran. The Caspian Sea is surrounded by Russia, Iran, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Azerbaijan. This is important because Western warships cannot simply enter these waters and intercept Russian cargo ships. That gives Moscow and Tehran a relatively protected supply route. Ships can also reportedly switch off their tracking systems, making their movements harder to monitor. This route also avoids the Strait of Hormuz, a major choke point where the US has been applying pressure on Iran. So this means Putin had unlocked another door to help Iran. But this route is not new because Iran has used the Caspian Sea and its ports for moving military-related cargo. In July, Ukraine also said it had struck an Iranian vessel carrying military cargo in the Caspian. Russia, Iran, and China.
Did y'all see that? Let me play this back one more time. Just want y'all to see that headline.
Russia, Iran, and China have increasingly moved closer.
Okay, you see that right there? It says Russia and China are Iran's secret aides. That's what we've been. That's what's been being preached. If you have any understanding on the word, as far as prophecy is concerned, this has been talked about for years. And like I said, since I came into the word, I've been, just kind of picking up, not reinventing the wheel, but getting understanding on it. And it's very clear now. Going back to our elders, they've been preaching this for years. For some 40, 50 years at least. And now we're starting to see it come together. The world, for the most part, is in the dark. They don't understand that Russia and China, Iran, all of them, they move together. So the more and more these things pick up, the more and more it's going to become more and more prevalent as to how these individual countries are working together. And like we say all the time, America is going to take a back seat. Like I said, I love being here. If I had any place to choose as far as where I'm going to serve out captivity compared to other places in the world, if I had a choice, I'd be like, put me in America. Don't get me wrong, it was bad what happened, but some places are a whole lot worse. However, at the same time, this dynasty or this empire or this, what we call it, superpower, I should say, has to take a back seat in order for a prophecy to be fulfilled. And that's what we're starting to see. It's tons of news articles out there how people are reporting, that the dollar is collapsing. I don't know if you guys know, if you could type in $40 trillion. Yesterday, I believe, we crossed $40 trillion in debt. And what usually helps keep the debt down is you have countries buy our debt from us, right? And that kind of keeps us functioning and stuff like that. But now countries are not buying the debt. So in other words, that debt gonna become due now. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing it starting to take a back seat. But once again, Russia and China, Iran, these are all old countries that have been rolling together for thousands of years, and they're coming back.
Russia, Iran, and China have increasingly moved closer through the Look East strategy. The three countries are strategizing to reduce dependence on Western technology and building alternative supply networks. Russia has...
Did y'all hear that, though? I want to play the video, but I just want to make sure we point it out. They're strategizing. You know what I'm saying? They working together now. Technology, all of that.
And building alternative supply networks. Russia.
See, building alternative supply networks, what that does, that cuts America out of the picture. everybody, for the most part, all these years, had this superpower has been the one that's controlling everything. But now we're starting to watch the decline of it. And it's crazy because I'm seeing people who support the empire, the superpower here, even these people, talking heads, are talking about, the warning, the sign, the signs and stuff like that. They're writing on the wall. But yeah, that is crazy, brother Cam. 40 trillion, man, that's a lot, man. It's just getting worse. I think they would say we spending somewhere between, I could be wrong, around $60 billion per second, something like that.
Has reportedly shared satellite imagery with Iran, while China has provided technology linked to navigation, radar, and missile production. While Iran may be losing some of its old military infrastructure, it is also building a new supply chain. Putin's offer to help is not a surprise move. It comes due to loyalty. During Russia,
and that's one thing I wanted to point out. I did have that in my notes, that part about loyalty. Once again, these relationships, they go way back. These are not new relationships. These are old, established relationships. So when you mess with Iran, which is what we have been kind of, sounding the alarm about, this is not no regular small country that you can just go in and take over. It don't work like that. You have other countries like China, like Russia, that will show their loyalty to a country like Iran due to its history between each other.
Russia's war in Ukraine, Iran helped Moscow with drones to strike Ukraine. Now, as Iran faces its own war and depleted stockpiles, Russia is reportedly returning the favor. So as long as Russia can keep sending supplies through a route Trump cannot easily control, Iran will not run out of ammunition. The weapons are even reaching Iranian proxies. Israel recovered foreign weapons hidden by Hezbollah, and they traced back to Russia and China. Iran has spent months firing missiles and drones while also absorbing U.S. and Israeli strikes on military and production facilities. Replacing weapons has become a major task for both the U.S. and Iran. Iran has been trying to replace ballistic missile components and other military equipment with Russian and Chinese-made parts. Moscow's support could help Iran keep its production lines moving, even if Iran's own facilities have been damaged. Iran, being a country that builds its own unique missiles and drones, does not necessarily need Russia to hand it complete missiles. Components, explosives, electronics, and drone parts can be enough to keep Iran's own military industry alive.
All right. So just wanted y'all to see that. We have an insight on what's going on, because essentially that's what's going to happen when it's all said and done. They're going to come together. So now, looking at here, this goes in line with what the title is. And what do you guys think? Are we headed towards nuclear war? And we don't know, but just check this out. Like it says here, this is Hal Turner Radio Show. Former Congresswoman, United States, former Congresswoman, United States discussing using nuclear weapons upon Iran. All right, excuse me. All right, so let's see here. Now, this is a former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was definitely all about MAGA, and she parted ways. She saw some things she didn't like, so she parted. But notice what she's saying here. They are discussing using nuclear weapons on Iran in strategy meetings. Yes, you read that correctly. It's real. I'm not speculating. I know, and it's pure evil. So this is what's starting to happen in the background. The conversations are starting to pick up about whether or not we'll be using nuclear warheads. So it could be tactical, which is like something that's not too major, but still has the capability of knocking out hundreds of thousands of people, But they're talking about it. The last time a nuclear weapon was used was August 6th and 9th of 1945 on two cities in Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, immediately killing 110,000 people, vaporizing people at ground zero. And total deaths reached 214,000 by the end of the year from severe burns and trauma. But the extreme suffering continued for the Japanese people from radiation sickness, skyrocketing cancer rates, and generation of birth defects, not to mention wiping out all means of their economy. And the suffering was so great that all of humanity vowed never again, right? And you guys can a lot of times see the image of that a video of when they dropped that that nuke on Hiroshima. That's the most famous one I'm aware of. And I did hear about the Nagasaki, but I definitely know about Hiroshima, right? Or Hiroshima, some people would say. But it's like that bomb that drops and it's a mushroom, creates a mushroom cloud. Well, that's the nuke that was dropped back in 1945, and they agreed never to do it again based on all the casualties and damage that it caused. But this is why the Lord won't allow it to happen. As far now, you may have them drop some here and there, but the Lord not going to allow them to go completely crazy, because once again, like he says in Matthew 24, if he didn't cut the days short, there will no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sakes, he's going to cut the days short. So back to the article. Trump and his administration were told by our own intelligence, that Iran was nowhere near creating a nuclear weapon. Then Israel said the same line. It's repeated for decades. Iran is only weeks away. So which is it? Are they preparing one or are they not? And it just goes to show that the media sell us anything. It's been this way for thousands of years. Well, hundreds of years, but media, whoever controls the media, you can like they say, control the narrative. So whatever they're giving us, you just got to kind of dig a little deeper. That's all. So it says, so we bombed anyways, killed their leaders and innocent little children in the school, and Iran has controlled the Strait of Hormuz ever since and punished the region for their part in it. And now our government is the one actually discussing lowering the nuclear threshold in order to use nuclear weapons against Iran, even though Trump claims he won the war like 40 times and says the U.S. controls the Strait of Hormuz. That's what SOH is. Trump promised no more foreign wars, but may actually be the one who delivers a nuclear holocaust that will likely drag the entire world into a major conflict. Into major conflict, economic depression, and mass human suffering we've never seen in our lifetimes and maybe throughout history. Wow. People need to speak out and boldly stop this insanity. America is not untouchable. If and when that happens, everyone, and I do mean everyone, will hold all of those in leadership right now fully responsible for the rest of human history. Do not use nuclear weapons and stop this war now. So now let's go look at something else here. And like I said, this is a conversation that's starting to take place in the background. It's starting to pick up a whole lot more. If something like this does happen, this is what we're here for, y'all. To dig into things that are going on around us, because it's not really going to be put out here. I guess on the mainstream, it's out here for us to look at, but we just want to pay attention. So, because we know time's gonna get scary, but a lot of times people make decisions out of fear, and that's what we want to do. We want to just make sure we have a just weight on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, we want to get into the Word, read our Bibles, and study and stuff like that, and at the same time, just look around and see what's going on. You don't. It's like when Jesus went up to keep the feast in John chapter 7. They had his family, his brother, even his people knew him, had told him to go up to keep the Feast of Feast of Tabernacles in John 7, and they want him to go up, making it seem as if they were, I guess, concerned about him showing all the different miracles and stuff like that. But they was trying to set Jesus up. And Jesus told him he wasn't going up to Feast of Tabernacles at that moment. He didn't say he wasn't coming, but he knew he had to move about a certain way. So he went on up, and he was in there preaching and stuff like that, kept the whole Feast of Tabernacles. But at the same time, he still was strategic about how he did things. And that's all we doing this for. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to be, yeah, we in the Word, but we can still look around and see what's going on. You know what I'm saying? This is why we watch and pray and keep our eyes on the Word of God and the things that are lining up with prophecy, so we know where we are in the game right now. All right, so let's just check out this video here. This is, as you can see from the title, they are discussing nuclear weapons on Iran. And this colonel here, Anthony Aguilar, he's going to kind of touch on what Marjorie Taylor Greene said, the article that we just read. So let's tap in on it.
Hey man, how are you?
Doing well, Mario. How are you?
Good man, good. Yeah, so tell me more about Trump nuking Iran, please.
Yes, to the point.
I do believe that is going to happen. I think that we're beyond the rhetoric or hope that it won't. I do believe that it will.
Okay, wow. Okay, I thought you were gonna tell me like the extreme statement that people are making is they say that they do believe Trump wants to do this, but you're going a step further by saying you think not Trump wants to do this, but I think some sort of nuclear weapon will actually be used against Iran.
It's not just a matter of some type. I'm quite certain it'll be the B63 Delta variant of the already existing gravity advanced nuclear bomb that we have in the area of responsibility in U.S. Central Command. So when you think, well, it's not just Turkey. So when you think about the armament of the U.S. nuclear triad, we also maintain a quite robust armament of tactical nuclear weapons. The B61 variant, in some locations, we still have the older B61, and in some locations, it's not that it's not that scary looking. It's this is the B61 right here on its carriage.
It looks tiny. It looks like it would maybe destroy one car.
The warhead is about 700 pounds on the entire fuselage of the bomb itself. It's the same body that we use in the GBUs of the 2,000-pound bombs that Israel drops on Gaza every day. So when you consider that, and oh, by the way, the newer variant of the B63 was just tested in March at White Sands Missile Range, WSMR as they call it. I've been there many times testing munitions, but this is the B61 tactical nuke, upgraded with the new B63 variant that we just re-equipped certain locations with, and this is the F-35 dropping it. I mean, so that's this past March.
So they were practicing, like you said, it was practicing early this year. A lot of times when they practice, have these different war games and drills and stuff like that, it's for war. So just keep an eye out.
So when you consider the tactical nuclear weapons that we have in the theater, we have about 20 of them in Germany. We've got about 22 of them sitting between the Netherlands and Belgium. We've got about 50 of them in Turkey. We've moved some to Romania. We've got about 70 of them sitting in Italy in Aviano Air Base and Geri Tora Air Base. And when you consider where they can be moved quickly, how they can be put onto an F-35, a very good armament specialist, a weapons grade rated weapons specialist can put that onto this and switch out that armament in about 8 minutes. So this is not a hard process.
Anthony, you're saying this is a nuke?
That is the B61 tactical nuke.
Wow.
It's wild they can pack it into such a small body.
When people often think of the talk of a nuclear weapon, we think about World War II of Little Boy and the Fat Man. Yeah. These nuclear weapons that come out of Los Alamos under the most strict secrecy, loaded onto an aircraft, dropped, and then caused the explosions as they did. This is not the. Remember, in the last time we used a nuclear weapon, we did not have tactical nuclear weapon options. We had mutually assured destruction nuclear weapons, which then became part of the nuclear triad. When Trump threatens of a nuclear weapon being used against Iran, we're not talking the triad nuclear armament. We're talking about a tactical nuke.
The simple fact that the simple fact that the discussion is even on the table, whether it's tactical or a triad, whatever he said, he's differentiating between the different types. So a tactical nuke more so would be something not as dangerous and more so selective, right? Like for example, it is precise and they know exactly what they're going for, and it may not cause as much damage. However, once you open that can of worms, man, it just opens up for more weapons to come out now. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you know how the heart of man is, you're not gonna outdo me. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna hit us with this and think that we're not gonna retaliate. So that's just gonna open up things and make it a whole lot worse just by starting something like that. It would just be best, in my opinion, just to back up. Say, hey man, all right, we gonna retreat, just like Vietnam. From what I understand, we didn't do too well in that. Also lost a lot of soldiers as well, and even in this case right here, so we not doing that well also. And a lot of our infrastructure, as far as warfare is concerned, it's old. But at the same time, man is prideful. Man is prideful. We're being sold a bill of goods every day, man. But at the same time, you got Iran saying we ain't discussing nothing. We ain't talking about nothing. We ain't opening up the Strait of Hormuz. Then on the other hand, we saying that it's blocked. But mankind is so prideful. All they have to do is just walk away from it. And in this case right here, we talking about our president. All we got to do is walk away. But it got to happen though. That's just like with Pharaoh in Egypt, right? You know what I'm saying? Even though we know and we can look at it as man and say, why didn't Pharaoh just let God's people go? Would have saved him a whole lot of headaches, right? But at the same time, things got to happen. It got to be fulfilled. And that's what we're seeing now. So I know as a man, I would want them to just leave it alone so we can just move on in peace, right? Get back to some type of normalcy. But at the same time, we got to realize we want the Lord to return also. So we want the Lord to return and set up his kingdom on this earth. Then these things have to happen. We just got to hold on for the ride. That's all.
Tactical nuclear weapon that we just showed that looks seemingly benign and small and just like anything else that can be dropped from an F-35 or an F-15 or an F-16, which we have in theater, which we have ready to go, which we have the munitions available, which we have upgraded their PCLs or their protection code links, meaning they have been updated to then be dropped from an F-35 already. All of that has happened. It is all primed and ready. The President of the United States has said, just in the last 2 weeks, that if Iran does not come to the negotiating table or come with a deal soon, that we will unleash a weapon that has not been seen since World War II. It's pretty clear what that is. We now have Marjorie Taylor Greene, from her connections within the intelligence community, from her former position within the U.S. House of Representatives in the United States Congress, that is being discussed. We also know that there was a direct confrontation between the United States Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane, and President Donald Trump on the specific use of a nuclear weapon, and there was some pushback on that. We know that in between that time, between what we know now and what happened then, that there was also some heated debate at Camp David when Donald Trump brought together the U.S. Central Command Commander, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, and others. So the characters in the room in terms of the military, Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth have fired every general officer in theater that maintains tactical control of these nuclear weapons, meaning General Charlie Costanza, fired last week. General Chris Donahue, fired last month. These are the commanders that would be giving Hegseth and Trump input through the chairman on the potential deployment of these nuclear weapons.
Wow. So y'all hear that, right? So in other words, the people that understand how these machines work, they got fired. And it kind of reminds me of David. You remember David wanted to sleep with Bathsheba, right? And he had his guy, I think might have been the guy that was over the military, captain or something like that. But he was definitely close to David. I can't remember. But he told David, he was like, hey man, ain't that Uriah the Hittite? that's his wife, ain't it, man? Why you gonna holler at her, man? Like, you know, that's old boy wife. And David just like ignored him. You know what I'm saying? Ignored him, and next thing you know, old girl, she was up in David's spot, and David sleeping with her. You know, and you have the Lord put people in place for a reason to help keep things in line. You know, like for example, if you didn't have people to reason with the president, you know, ain't no telling how far presidents would have gone. You know what I'm saying? Everybody don't. You have checks and balances, in other words. But when you get the checks out the way, then the balances ain't gonna work out. You know what I'm saying? And that's what he sound like what the president has done, got rid of, the ones who were responsible or who have some type of knowledge on how these nukes supposed to work, when or why you should use them and stuff like that. Well, just fire them and get them out the way. And guess what that does? That removes any pushback. So they've done that, got them out of the way. So hopefully the Lord will allow cooler heads to prevail. But whatever the Lord's will is, that's what it's going to be. Battelle is one of the major manufacturing contracting companies that make these for the government and supply them to the military. Wow. They probably about to get paid too. Probably about to get paid, man. It's crazy. It's crazy we even are discussing this, but when you look around at the world and see how the morality has gone down, what else do you expect? At some point it got to come to an end, and that's where we are now. All right, let's see here. Okay, this is a Fox News article here. I'm trying to make sure I have it queued properly. Reporter's notebook: daylight saving time fight puts Senate up against a ticking clock. So once again, how do you guys feel about that? Cam, I know you are a teacher, school teacher and stuff like that. And then we have not only been a school teacher, you have students that have to catch the bus to school, right? All over the country, If they did leave the time where it is now, it would have an effect on that. But what y'all think about that? Let's see here.
Some liberal media outlet will speak out about the crimes being committed in this country by people in this country.
Okay, so let's see here. For some reason, it played it. Let me see if it goes back without me losing it. This is not the one I want. Okay, I do want this. All right, give me 1 second, y'all. Let's see. All right. It was a video, if I can see the video on it. Okay.
Real strength isn't pushing through pain.
We'll get through this clip right quick and let's see what they say about it. Give me 1 second here. I had it queued up, but I think it just moved to the next one, but we'll get to it. As soon as this ad is done, I'm unmuted.
In tonight's Whatever Happened To segment, President Trump is urging the U.S. Senate to approve a bill authorizing permanent daylight saving time in the U.S. The House has already passed it. Supporters say Americans are tired of changing their clocks twice a year. Opponents warn about dark winter mornings. Here's Chief Congressional Correspondent Chad Pergram.
The clock is ticking on the U.S. Senate to pass permanent daylight saving time.
The bill is passed.
The House voted overwhelmingly earlier this year to lock the clock, canceling the biannual ritual of springing forward and falling back.
Around the country, people are going to be excited because they don't have to go back and forth.
President Trump declaring that people are, quote, sick and tired of changing the clocks, calling the practice foolish. The issue isn't partisan.
People across New Mexico and across so many parts of the country, they don't want to be changing those clocks day after day.
Time change advocates say passing the bill is more pressing than you think.
That might be more important to my people back home than the Save America Act.
But there are detractors. Permanent daylight saving time means the sun doesn't rise until late in New England in the dead of winter.
You want your kids standing out on the bus stop in the dark at 10 a.m.?
There's no consensus from residents of states which are split by 2 time zones, like Indiana.
Hoosiers care a lot about time. They also have fundamental disagreements within the state about what time it is or should be at any given moment.
And there's the old adage that those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it.
Didn't we do this once before?
In the 70s, and we reversed it in 6 months.
Yeah, well, that's should be a cautionary tale.
Congress approved year-round daylight saving time in late 1973 to combat oil shortages, but immediately fell back. People abhorred having less light in the morning. Brett?
What y'all think about that? I think they should leave it alone. I mean, the reason why I think so because you have to consider, you know, you do have children out there at the bus stop, like 6:30, 6:45. We used to be out there, you know, I think we got back when we was going to school, we got to school at 7:20. You know, so that means we had to be at the bus stop like at 6:45. And sometimes it was dark. You know, sometimes it would be dark walking to the bus stop. You know, 10th grade and stuff like that. But at the same time, it'll kind of get a little brighter, like around 7:00. But you know, my thinking is just leave stuff alone. Like if we just leave it alone, the Lord will have everything just set up properly. You know. But I just wanted to bring that out because that is definitely something that they're discussing. Already passed. I think it passed in the House, so it just got to pass the Senate. So that'll probably be something they're gonna do. So, all right. So let's go to our false prophet of the day. Notice how some people can be so boastful as if God don't exist.
You better believe it,
y'all. Check this.
All these false prophets on Facebook who think God is teaching me a lesson because of what I'm going through with the IRS. God teaching him, God humbling him, God teaching him a lesson because what he going through with the IRS. I can't wait till they see God make me escape. I can't wait till God. Let me hush.
Sure about that?
It's Wednesday.
Right. You sure about that?
All these false prophets on Facebook.
All right. So that right there is Brian Karn, right? I wanted to show him because I think we pointed out a few months ago about how he got into some trouble with our IRS, which more than likely going to have some more false preachers falling because of that as well. But he said he wasn't going to jail. So let's go look at this right here, the Christian Post. That's what article this is. Televangelist Brian Karn in prison after declaring he'd never go to jail. Well, we know that didn't work, right? Self-styled prophet and leader of Kingdom City Church, Brian Karn Jr. is now in prison despite declaring last month that he'll never spend a day in jail after pleading guilty in January to obstructing the IRS efforts to collect more than $600,000 in outstanding taxes. Online prison records show that the 37-year-old televangelist began a court-ordered 9-month stint at the Federal Correctional Institution in Bennettsville, South Carolina last Friday. Karn was initially ordered to report to prison on June 15th to begin serving his 9-month sentence for tax evasion. On June 9th, however, U.S. District Judge Timothy J. Corrigan granted him a 60-day extension to self-surrender on August 14th to allow him to care for his terminally ill father. Weeks after that extension was granted, Kingdom City's Church is Charlotte, North Kingdom City's Church is Charlotte. What? Kingdom City Church is Charlotte, North Carolina campus. Was evicted after the ministry fell nearly $76,000 behind on rent for the 2 units it leased. What are you doing with all that money, man? That's what people do. They just take advantage of the people. Take advantage of people. How you go behind that far, but you making all this money? During a worship service billed the Freedom Encounter on July 3rd, a defiant Karn boldly declared, "I'll never spend a day in jail. I'll never spend a day in jail. You better believe it. See, I talk like that," he said. "I talk like that. I ain't scared." The United States Department of Justice announced Karn's guilty plea in a press release in January. Prosecutors say Karn's original 2015 tax return correctly reported that he earned more than $1.4 million in income and owed more than $600,000 in taxes. And he said, I ain't never had that much money. Still, I don't care whether you had that much money or not, you got to pay taxes. It's obvious. You go to the store and buy some candy, you got to pay taxes, right? And that's why I hear a lot of people, a lot of new people that come into the truth that don't have no understanding of how it works, right? So they say things about people being churches, IUIC, IOG, ICOJ, even ISUPK. These are all these are 501c3 organizations. But people don't understand, because I was one of them. Matter of fact, when back in 2000, I think 12, before I got in contact with ICOJ, I had looked into starting a church, and I had reached out to the lady that does our taxes about the 501c3, because I was one of those ones that was heavy on not being a part of the 501c3, because I thought they would tell us what to do, tell us what to preach and stuff like that. Excuse me. So I asked the tax lady, and she told me flat out, she was like, they're not going to tell you what to say. 501c3, that right there is, if you got any donations or any money coming inside the organization or in a church, you got to make sure you are filing everything. And as a church, nonprofit organization, you have to make sure you file 501c3. That's just the tax code. That's all. Now we may get like benefits on the, tax deductions on the land. Like, for example, the schools in Gary and Hammond and stuff like that, get some breaks on that. Different breaks on different things, but they don't tell us what to say. They don't come in there and tell us how to preach. We're gonna preach the Bible no matter what. However, at the same time, Jesus told them, when the Pharisees tried to come and catch him up against Caesar, they were saying that, well, you got to, as far as taxes are concerned, they was asking him, well, who should we give it to? Who should we get the taxes to, right? And they thought they was gonna catch him up because they know he was about God and stuff like that, and they trying to think that he gonna say something against giving Caesar what belonged to him, right? So he asked them. He said, "Show me a penny." And when they showed him the penny or the pence, he looked at it. He said, whose inscription is on it? They said Caesar's, right? He said, okay, well, render unto Caesar's what's Caesar, and render unto God what's God. So in this case right here, hey, we're going to serve God. We're going to give God what's his tithe and stuff like that. We're going to make sure we do that, right? Because that's a commandment. However, in this land that the Lord have, where the Gentiles have things set up, we got to file everything. We can't be trying to hide and stuff like that, because if you got a church set up and you're not reporting these taxes, if you're not reporting the donations or even the offerings that are coming in, you put yourself in the line of fire and somebody going to jail. That's why you look up top, I think it was Israel. What was that name of that church? Israel Church of God in Jesus Christ. I think it's ICJC, something like that. ICGJC, something like that. Where the guy called himself the Comforter. He got locked up because he was embezzling that. He was taking that money. So you have to do this. And that's why I say in this case right here, it don't matter whether he knew it or not. You paying taxes on everything. You pay taxes on your insurance. I mean, your car. Every year you got to pay that. You got to pay taxes when you go to the store. You paying taxes on that. You got to file. Come on. So if you got a church and you taking money in, you can't use that excuse. What it is people just like to take advantage of these people, and he thinking he can get around the system, but they caught up to him. So yeah, you're right, Cam. I thought he would have been taken down, man. But it says U.S. Department of Justice. Where was I at? Okay, 600,000 taxes. Okay, right here. We'll come right here. Rather than pay it, prosecutors claim that Khan later amended that return and falsely removed nearly $1.3 million in previously reported income after the IRS attempted to collect the debt. Falsely removed it now, including by placing liens on his properties and trying to levy his bank accounts. The DOJ also claims Khan made several other false representations and material omissions to the IRS to conceal his assets and income, causing a loss to the U.S. Treasury of between $550,000 and $1.5 million. Man, I'm not going to read all this, but you can see it. He is locked up, just showing you that his prophecy did not work. Hey, and sometimes you need to sit down because he was really getting beside himself. You know, there's one video here. He running and jumping over people in church. I mean, just stupid. All right, so now let's go to our next one. And this is our last one for this evening. All right, let's see here. Now, as you can see, this is a Fox News article. Like it says, neonatologist sounds alarm over Massachusetts abortion law allowing procedures up to birth. Very disturbing. So what have we come to, y'all? What have we come to, man? I just think it's terrible. I think it's terrible. But let's see what she has to say about it.
My name is Robin Perucci. I'm a neonatologist and on the board of directors with the American College of Pediatricians. We, as the college, were concerned about this new law in Massachusetts that is ironically named the Prioritizing Patient Care Act, when what it does is simply expand abortions, the ability of the state to conduct that. So my thoughts on this law are, if it was really about healthcare, then it would be about protecting both the mom and the baby. And if we're really about healthcare, it would also be about, if there's a problem that was identified, it would be about removing barriers for helping this baby live well. We talk about, how do we help? How do we help someone live well? Even if we don't have the ability to fully heal something, I always have an obligation to care. So a screening test just tells you a percentage value of whether you have it or not. So a screening test just tells you a percentage value of whether you have it or not. It doesn't tell you if it's 100% there. And yet, from screening tests, people are being offered to terminate their child, and we haven't proven that that's the right diagnosis. And we sure don't know how much or how little it's going to affect them. So this kind of thing is going on frequently. And it's very disturbing that we're making life and death decisions with so little information, and we're not preparing parents for what's about to happen. We can't, voting one off the island because of a suspected diagnosis is just inconsistent with do no harm. And you know what? A medical diagnosis does not define who we are. Our first diagnosis is, it's a baby. And no other diagnosis ever negates diagnosis number one. So it's our privilege to get to care about both the mother and the baby, and look at what barriers there are to both of them living well with whatever physiology the new one arrives with.
All right, so let's go look at something right quick. Let's go to the very beginning, and that's it for today. But I just want to pull out a few scriptures on this because I just thought that was important. Let's just take it all the way back to Genesis 1 and 26 and Genesis 2. And let's see what the Lord said about it. Genesis 2 and verse, let's see here. Well, Genesis 1, I'm sorry. Genesis 1 and 26. And this is when man come on the scene on the sixth day. It says, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creep upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that move upon the earth. So now replenish the earth, that right there is an indication that something was here before at some point in time. So evidently some came, and whatever happened, we don't know. But for us to replenish it, that kind of indicates that something was there before. But in this case right here, replenishing, the Lord say, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth, right? So that's the thing we can't forget. He commanded us to be fruitful and multiply. It wasn't a request. It was no contraceptive there. Is be fruitful and multiply, and that's what we're supposed to do. So now we're going to Genesis chapter 2, where the Lord is actually finna put this plan into effect, and he's going to hound more on the man. That's what Genesis 2 about. It's not that it's another creation. It's just that he kind of lays everything out in Genesis 1. When you get to Genesis chapter 2, now he's going to start breaking he's not going to break everything down. He's going to get to mankind, because mankind is a focal point. And notice what he's going to say about man. Genesis 2, and we're going to pick it up at verse 21. Genesis 2 and 21. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh and stared thereof. And the woman which the Lord God had taken from man, and the rib which the Lord God had taken from man, made her a woman, and brought her unto the man. And Adam said, this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father and mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. And that's what's going to happen. You're going to get a wife, a man going to leave his father and mother, cleave unto his wife. They're going to be one flesh. And the goal is, you come together, and guess what? You're going to produce children. Produce children. Like another place, Malachi talk about it being a righteous seed. So now let's go over to Psalms 83. You know what? Before we go to Psalms 83, let's just look at Exodus right quick. Exodus 1. Because I don't care what, I don't care how to try to package it. I know exactly. I believe wholeheartedly that these things affect us the most. You know what I'm saying? In our communities, is pushed by way of radio, entertainment, sex, fornication, adultery. That's pushed heavy in our communities, right? So on the other end, what I also notice is that all these different programs, as far as depopulation is concerned, is set up more so around us. But you want us to get caught up. They push for us to do all these different types of things as far as morality is concerned. And then the result of laying around and sleeping with one another, man and woman, that is, which is the natural way. Anything else is unnatural, point blank, period. But but then you want to turn around and put Planned Parenthood in our neighborhoods, want to promote abortion. Then it got so out of hand that they just put an overnight pill in the store. You just go buy it now, because at the end of the day, even though the society as a whole may catch other nations inside the drag net that they throw out there, right? Like you throw a net out in the water, the goal is, say you fishing for a certain type of fish, right? You may know where the school of fish hang out at. You may throw the net in the water, and boom, you catch. Say you fishing for bass, right? You catch bass, or you might catch a slew of crappie if that's what you're looking for. But it is a possibility you may pull up, a spotted bass as opposed to a largemouth. You know what I'm saying? Or as opposed to a crappie. You know what I'm saying? You may pull up something different. But if I got to do that, if I got to throw this net out and there's a possibility of me catching other fish in order for me to catch the fish that I want, then that's what I'll do. And that's what it kind of, in my mind, it kind of rings this type of bell in my mind that that's what's going on. Push out all these different programs as far as abortion is concerned, Planned Parenthood, because you can't plan no parenthood. You know, the Planned Parenthood is to get these young girls in there and to talk them out of having that child, or putting a number on the amount of children you should be having. And they wrap it up as if they care. But the same mentality that was going on back during these days, the days of Pharaoh, is what's going on now. So Exodus chapter 1, and it got so bad that, you know, the midwives who were ordered by Pharaoh to kill the Hebrew males, they just weren't going to do it. But just pay attention to what was on his mind. Verse 15, Exodus 1 and 15, and the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, when you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then you shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. And the reason that's the case is because the man is the one that you know, carries on the nation, the lineage of the nation. So if you got a female, you know, keep her, because keep in mind, you know, Pharaoh them and their sons, they can lay with these Hebrew women, and guess what? Their nation, their lineage will continue on. But what they want to do on the other hand, get rid of the Hebrew boys, though. Get rid of them. You know, they're not concerned about the women overtaking them. They're concerned about the men. You know, Pharaoh thought that we would multiply so much so that if a war broke out, we'll turn against them. So notice who he is targeting. He's targeting the male. And the same thing is going on today. Same thing going on today. And Psalms 83 in verse 4, it says, they have said, I'm gonna start at verse 1. Keep not thy silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that have hated thee, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against our people and consulted against our hidden ones. And that's what you got going on today. The world is still taking that crafty counsel. Nothing changed. It's just that it's on a bigger scale. It's not subject just to Egypt anymore. Now it's all over the world. So all these different programs that you see going on, not just the programs, but the rap music, you know, talking about killing each other, all type of sex, pushing same sex. You know what I'm saying? All this right here, like I said, the drag net, it'll catch other fish in the net, but the main fish we're looking for in this case, we're looking for these Hebrews. Want to get rid of them. You know, and that's why the Lord said in Malachi 3, "I, the Lord, I change not." You know, therefore you sons of Jacob are not consumed. So no matter what they doing, all these different plans that they coming up with, even to the point where a woman can have a child. She can have a child, deliver this child, and when that child is born, they now have the permission to take that child's life. That go to show you where we are in time. See, you probably couldn't, or we probably couldn't imagine. You know, we read about what happened during the days of Egypt when we had a male child, and they would have to put, get rid of it, right? Jesus on the scene. Herod was coming after Jesus, and matter of fact, all the kids 2 years, 2 and under came after them. He was a prophet just like Moses. But Pharaoh put the order out, which is why Moses was in a basket floating up the river, and Miriam was, coming after him, following him, because they knew that they had to get rid of Moses, because they were going after the male children in Israel. So today, it's packaged. It's packaged in a different type of way. It's packaged through the music. It's packaged through, glorifying money and drugs and women and stuff like that. And guess what? Guess what's hidden in the package? Death, jail. Because you can't do nothing. You can't increase the nation being dead. You understand? You can't increase the nation being in prison. And that's what's in the package that's not being sold, that we're not being exposed, in other words. But the same mentality that was going on during the days of Egypt is around now. They have taken crafty counsel in verse 3 against our people and consulted against our hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. And that's what you got going on today. Several nations, even close to us, families that are close to us, are all in bed together to get rid of Israel from growing. But the Lord is not going to allow that to happen. If you're thinking about, if you're pregnant, even if you're a family, husband and wife, and you think to yourself, well, I got so many kids that I can't handle no more. Look, you gotta look at things a different way. I know times are hard, but you don't think times were hard when Israel was in Egypt? They were slaves then. Times are hard then, but guess what? The Lord provided, didn't he? So we gotta put our mindset on making sure that we're gonna do what's necessary to serve our God. If he say be fruitful and multiply, be fruitful and multiply. Yeah, it's gonna be tough, but guess what though? He ain't gonna put more on you than you can bear. The Lord is creating gods. He's not going to create another Adam and another Eve. No, he created Adam and Eve, and through Adam and Eve, even though he destroyed the world in Genesis chapter 6, Noah came on the scene, came right out of Adam and Eve, right? Further down the line, because everybody originated from Adam and Eve. But even after the Lord destroyed the world by way of flooding the earth, when Noah and his 3 sons and their 3 wives, and Noah's wife, the message was, because Noah ain't gonna do it no more. He ain't gonna, he ain't finna get back to it. His sons is, right? He told them, replenish the earth. Once again, I think it's in Genesis 10, matter of fact. What do I think about what's happening over? It was in there, the record that came through, and now she says, yeah. I think it's well, it touched home for us because, we got folks up there, you know what I'm saying? In 10 days, that's a lot. I was thinking about that today. I didn't know it was that bad. But when you talking about 8 days, 9 days, 10 days, and still no power, that's definitely bad. But one thing I can definitely say is that, whatever's going on with people, you always take situations to look at and say, okay, well, what I need to do. And if you ain't doing that wrong, hey, you probably got to do nothing. But I look at those situations and make sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, because just like it happened there, it can happen here. It can happen in Carolina. It can happen in South Carolina. It can happen anywhere. You know what I'm saying? But we just make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do. And in that, maybe the Lord will turn somebody's mind. You know what I'm saying? Because he controls it all. But yeah, that was definitely something bad that came through there. And lately it's been a lot that's been coming up that way. But, likewise with the earthquakes and stuff like that, it's been earthquakes just happening all over the place. But we in that time right now. And just because we serve the Lord, that don't mean we necessarily going to escape the wrath of the Lord. You know what I'm saying? We just ask that he have mercy on us in his wrath, or he hide us from the wrath completely. You know what I'm saying? But even Egypt, even Israel in Egypt, hey, they was catching hell. They was catching hell. Go back and read that when the Lord has started sending those plagues through there. They was catching hell, man. And then finally it got to a point where the Lord severed off Israel so they didn't have to go through it no more. But and that's what he's gonna do in the end as well. Israel, we're gonna catch it. Now the church, Lord willing, we get to the wilderness during this time. And even before that, Matthew 24 let you know it's gonna be some people delivered up for the word of God before we even get into the great tribulation, before it even start. So we just want to make sure or pray that we're worthy to get out of this situation, and definitely keep them in your prayers. Keep them in your prayers up there, because I was thinking about people got different ailments and things going on, kids and stuff like that, got to feed them. Some people have sicknesses, need medicine and stuff like that. They was doing a food drive today in Chicago, I think right outside, right around Hammond and Gary, feeding the people there, but man, just keep them in your prayers, man, and just also make sure we doing what's necessary, because those things right there can be signs for us as well. Psalm 127 verse 3, the last scripture for today. And thank you all for tuning in. And I know we supposed to came in on Tuesday, but a tree fell around the corner, knocked the internet out. And so we couldn't do nothing. And Nate was scheduled to come in with me that night also, but I couldn't do nothing because the internet was out. So when we changed it to tonight, now he had, he got to watch his son, because his wife is handling some business this evening. But Psalm 127 and verse 3, it says, "Lo, children are an heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward." So why you want to turn around and kill the fruit of the womb? That don't make sense. And the fruit of the womb is his reward. As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies in the gate. So just keep that in mind. Having children, that's a blessing. I know they go through their phases where they they be off the chain around 2 to 10, you know what I'm saying? And then you got to go through the teenage phase. But guess what though? That's your job as a parent, to rear them. And the Bible tell you that foolishness is bound in the heart of a child, but nothing is worth taking a child's life. You understand? As far as having children are concerned and aborting them and all that type of stuff, especially what we got going on now. So don't let nobody talk you out of that. If you are having children, thinking about having children, don't be afraid. Do what the Lord tell you to do. He gonna bless. He gonna take care of that. So some people like 6 kids, 7 kids. Look, back in slavery, when they came, they was having tons of children. My grandfather had 9, and my mama's side they had 10. I wanted 10 too, but they got us with that mess. Me and my wife was young, and we was on the road too, man. I wanted 10 children, man, but they got me. I didn't know no better, and got her tubes tied. And then on top of that, I'm looking at my grandparents like, man, I want as many kids as them. But when you have these doctors and stuff, they come to you all sweet, like they care about you and stuff. And really they get incentives to get you to do those things. So if you guys are thinking about having children or trying to have children, be patient, keep on serving God. And then on top of that, don't let it bog you down. Don't feel bad about having children, because it's a blessing from the Lord. So I wanted to point that out just to kind of show y'all where we were today. You guys, where we were today in this time, how wicked it is. But I know tomorrow's prep day. Sabbath is rolling around that quick, man. Goodness gracious. Time is definitely moving. Y'all stay prayed up. Pray for our family up in Gary, our church family and stuff like that. And you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Lord willing, this Tuesday we'll be back. Same place and same time. And other than that, peace and blessings. In Jesus' name, you guys have a great evening.